Back at the Fine Arts Center. It's America Day at Malden High School. Shout out to them. And today we're learning how to do a split toning effect in Photoshop. So that was a little preview. Let's start with our original image. I'm going to drag my group down to the bottom. A split toning effect takes the lower luminance values, so that's like the shadows, and puts them one color, and the upper luminance values, the highlights, and puts them in another color. Most of the time it's going to be a complementary color or something that looks good together. I happen to think blue and a light yellowish looked good. I can show you quick, as in, let's see, like if we did this, if we did green and red, that's not bad. I'd have to turn the opacity down some there. That might be an interesting effect. Okay, but let's close this back and bring it down. To create this effect, you're going to go into the color balance. Boom. This one is a rather intuitive one because you get to select the shadows, midtones, or highlights and then control them accordingly. So shadows, you're going to bring them towards the blue side. And what's really nice about this is you can see that blue is the opposite of yellow in this, and so that also creates a nice contrast there. So we're going to drag this towards blue. You can see it's starting to get blue. Your eyes will adjust after a while, so remember at the end to dial it back some. I'm going to pump a little bit of cyan in there to just snag anything else that I'm missing. Let's go to the highlights, drift it towards some yellow, maybe add a little bit of red because that's a little much, and maybe we're going for a sunset feel here, or sunrise rather. Okay, so that is one way to create this effect. Another way is to go into the gradient map. I'm going to leave this on so I can select some colors from the image. Gradient map does the exact same thing. It takes the luminance values, going from darkest to lightest, and then chooses and does a gradient throughout. It's pretty simple. I'm going to choose, let's do, cancel real quick and bump this effect up so I can get a better pick of the colors. Alright, gradient map, let's go into properties. Click to open up the gradient editor. Open up this little paint bucket thingy. Not what I want. Here we go. Let's grab a blue from it, if it'll let us. Drag it down a lot. That's nice. And then I have my orangey or yellowish cream kind of going on up here. So that is one way to create the effect. You're going to have to dial this back a lot, and you can fine tune it with your gradient editor. That's the combination of those two effects. Just the gradient map is going to look like this. Right now I have the opacity way down. You can bring this up. Maybe you want to add a vignette. Let's go into curves because we don't want to do anything that is destructive to our image. That's why we're only using adjustment layers. We're going to invert this layer mask, go to the brush tool. Now we're going to paint with white over where we want it to be. Let's bring the opacity of the brush itself up. Let's bring the, I don't like how the gradient map is kind of really dominating my shadows here. Let's go back to curve layer. We're now painting with white in order to see some of this vignette going on here. Let's paint all along here as if this part is still in shadow and the sun's over here. Makes sense, right? Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is going to teach you a trick about a lens flare. Now lens flare, the way they do it in Photoshop, it renders it and sticks it where you put it, and it's really annoying because you can't manipulate it after you've set it. The trick to get around this is to go into layer, go to fill, that's option delete, it's going to fill with your foreground, but if you want to bring the fill dialog, it's shift delete, but you can do the same thing by just taking your foreground color. But I'm going to reset first so that I can make sure I'm in black. Alright, then you're going to go to filter. I've already placed a lens flare in here that I like. I've set this in the lens flare dialog. I'm just going to go to screen. Now I can manipulate this. Makes a lot of sense. It's way more intuitive that way. Command D or T to rotate just a little bit how I like it. I'm going to get rid of this line by going to the layer mask, paint with black. Going to turn my opacity down so we begin to start getting the feather action here. But I gotta be on black. There we go. Now it starts to disappear. Let's lower the opacity some more so we can really begin to feather it out. So we're trying to not destroy any type of the image here, or do nothing that we can't reverse or manipulate. Maybe we want to lower the opacity and or change the blending mode. If you wanted to change the blending mode, you'd group it with itself, and that's going to be the trick to getting around that. Just a little word to the wise there. But that is how you do a split zoning effect and manipulate lens flares in Photoshop.